night here in Spain, 6 o'clock. Wanted to talk to you about this week and recap the last two videos I had. If you're a man over 40, what are you going to do about the second half of your life? Are you going to mail it in or stay in shape? Doctors tell you to stay active. Trainers, they obsess over training programs and the number of reps. But there are only three things that you need to focus on. Number one, muscle mass and strength. Number two, bone density. And number three, VO2 max. That's it. First two you saw with weightlifting, and this third one, that's what high intensity interval training and cardio is for. That's it. That's all you got to do. I'm the biggest fan of trying to live forever. Of course, it's not possible based on what we know right now, but I want to delay the inevitable as much as possible. And that to me means that fitness, staying healthy, living forever, making sure that I eat proper, healthy foods is one of my top priorities in life. So what are you going to do about it? I want to see my kids grow and maybe see my grandkids, so live life on my own terms as long as possible. Ending up in a hospital bed, being at the mercy of somebody else, not being able to control my own destiny is one of my biggest nightmares in life. That's why I wanted to record the video that I recorded. And like I said, life is simple, but not easy. We want it easy, which makes it complicated. And this same principle applies to fitness, it applies to business, applies to everything, I believe. And it's the basic things executed really well, consistently, day after day, year after year, and in this case, probably for a decade. And that's how you get what you ultimately want and deserve. If we go to the actual topic of the video, what I wanted to talk about is that fitness program, the second half of your life. When we're in our 40s, we know what happens. You see the change when you look yourself in the mirror. There's less strength, there's less muscle and more fat and slower recovery. That's just a fact of life. And most guys, they revert to the tiny little nuances, a new program, and focus on the number of reps, or maybe hire a personal trainer who's into those tiny little details. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not really going to solve it. Unless you have enough intensity there and you're going to train the proper way, nothing really matters. But I wanted to simplify in this video. It only took 4 minutes for me to record, for you to watch at the end of the day. But I wanted to simplify that thing. So three things, like I said: muscle mass and strength, bone density, and VO2 max. VO2 max is basically the size of your engine. Think about it this way. So it's your cardiovascular capacity, the cubic centimeters, the volume of your engine, whether you have a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, or an 8-cylinder engine. And that's the only thing that really matters then as far as the cardio stuff. You can achieve that by doing high intensity interval training, or by running on a treadmill for 30 to 45 minutes. I prefer the high intensity interval training because I can accomplish the same thing, get the same benefits in a fraction of the time. It's easier on my joints and it's less boring. So I do it in 10 to 15 minutes. But weightlifting has been always my bread and butter, my go-to thing to stay in shape. And the reason why weightlifting is so important is that you hold on to the muscle mass you have, or actually you can improve it, and the strength gains as well is super important. And bone density. When you subject yourself to higher loads, heavy loads, your bone density is where it's supposed to be. That's the thing. So lift weights. What do I do then is the next question. In my video, I broke this down also into bits and pieces, but very, very simple. There's only three things you need to worry about as far as weightlifting goes: push, pull, and hold. Push means everything like push-ups, overhead press, squats for your lower and upper body. Pull is basically pull-ups, different rows, one arm, bent over rows, or seated cable rows, or deadlifts, right? So that's the thing for the pull side. And then hold is basically your grip strength. Studies indicate that your grip strength has a direct correlation with your longevity. So that's why it's super important. How can I achieve that? A couple of things. Hang on a bar. So the pull-up bar that you use for the pull-ups, just hang without any straps or anything. And try to make sure that you can at least stay there, hang there for 60 seconds and gradually try to improve. Farmer's walk is another good way. Grab something super heavy, kettlebells, dumbbells, and walk back and forth. Grocery bags work the same way. And then VO2 max, My go-to, like I said, is high intensity interval training. What I prefer is 40 seconds, full steam ahead, so to say, flat out, and take a 20-second break. I prefer the assault bike. You can do stationary bike, or you can run on the treadmill, whatever you want to do. But I prefer the 40-20 split, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off, and you repeat that 10 times. And that's actually, including warm-up, is a 10 to 15 minute workout. You get the same benefits, the VO2, the cardiovascular capacity improvements, enhancements, so to say, compared to that 30 to 45 minute, let's say, treadmill run. Faster, I think it's less boring, and all of the good benefits as well. So that was the thing that I wanted to highlight in that video, and I wanted to record this live as well and see if there's anybody who wants to talk about that stuff. But like I said, it's the second half of our lives. So when we are in our 40s, like I said, everything slows down. So how can we make sure that we stay in the game as long as possible? We probably have, with modern technology and medicine, we probably have another, I don't know, hopefully 50 or 60 years to live. We should. My grandmas both died when they were 95. My grandfathers died earlier, but they had some illnesses and sicknesses and whatnot that contributed to that. But I'm hoping that then my mother, my parents, maybe live up to 100, and then I should be able to improve from there. So if I'm 49 now, I should have the other 50% left. Knock on wood. So what am I going to do about it? Am I going to stay in shape, and am I going to delay the inevitable? Because at some point there's going to be a decline. According to studies, that 75, between 70 and 75, both males and females, they basically fall off a cliff as far as their health and their performance goes. And it's probably a combination of two things. Our hormones decline and our body starts to slow down, and therefore we can't be that active anymore. Or the other way is that we actually are less active, and that's how our body is basically getting the signal to slow things down. But anyhow, my goal is to, like I said, fight against that as much as possible. And then the second half of my life, the other 50%, should be hopefully as good as possible. And in order to get there, like I said, there are three things. Muscle mass, muscle strength is one, bone density is two, and VO2 max is the third one. And the first two, weightlifting, push, pull, hold. And the last one, VO2 max, is cardio. And like I said, my preference is high intensity interval training. That's the thing. I mean, as long as we live our lives, there's no regrets at the end of the day. That's how I look at it. What else can we expect? Nothing. To each his own. You can do whatever you want in life as long as you understand the long-term consequences. I'm actually here in Spain. A side topic, off topic. A guy I know, I wouldn't call him my friend, but I've known him since I was probably a teenager. Our parents are high school friends, and they've been keeping in touch ever since. And unfortunately, he passed away last weekend here in Spain. I just heard about it a couple of days ago. My mom actually called me, and it made me think, because he was a couple of years older than me. Yeah, nobody knows what happened. Apparently, his own daughter found him at home, and he had some sort of a medical, call it seizure, or some sort of an event. Obviously, not sure what that was. That's not even important. But anyhow, he died awfully young. And there's another, actually, good friend of mine that passed away almost a year ago. He was a year younger than me. But it makes you think when people close to you die all of a sudden, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not immortal anymore, the way I used to think back in the day. When I was in my 20s, I didn't even think about living up to my 50s. I guess it was just like one day at a time, right? So it was like so far out in the future that nobody really thinks about it. But then you have kids all of a sudden, and I took a shower yesterday here, and I was like, kind of hit me that, oh my God, it was 20 years ago when I moved to San Diego, and my son was born basically a couple of months after that. I was like, oh my God, he's gonna turn 20 in December. And it's mind-boggling. It's crazy how fast time flies. This is such a cliche. Everybody talks about it, how time flies, but it's actually true. And the older you get, the faster it seems to go. Why is that? I don't know. I think because we get more experienced and we understand how valuable time truly is. And if it's something that you really appreciate and you like and you want to hold on to it, I think it's kind of natural and then time flies. Like when we were kids and we had a play date with our friends, so we had something fun to do, of course, time always seemed to fly, right? The same thing as an adult. I think when we know more, life is not getting easier, but I think you understand the way the system and the game works better. At least that applies to me. So I think then it just seems that it's crazy. Every year goes like this. And if you think about it, if the average life expectancy still is 78 years, it's not that many weeks. It's like, what is it, 4,500 weeks, something like that? I gotta do the math. My phone is recording there, I can't. But if you think about it, it's like 78 years. How much is that? 78 times 52. 4,056 weeks. That's ridiculous. A week goes by like that, 7 days. You only have a little over 4,000 of those. Of course, that's assuming 78 years. My goal is, I don't know, somewhere there, as long as I have good years. 90, 100, 110. Like I said, with modern technology and medicine, I think people are going to be surprised how much we can extend the longevity concept. But that remains to be seen. That's just my personal opinion. But obviously, you can tell I'm getting older because I think about this stuff, right? So if you've been paying attention to my channel, you see that a lot of my content nowadays, ever since, I would say a month and a half, 2 months ago, has been geared towards men in their 40s. And that's what all of my clients represent right now. And I see a clear pattern there, that there's a need to talk about those things that men in their 40s and maybe in their 50s think about, suffer from. Whether it's your business, try to grow that. How do I make more money? How do I simplify my life? And then you have relationship issues. Maybe you were with the same partner for, I don't know, 20, 25 years. You have kids and all of a sudden life doesn't, you like living somebody else's life. Which takes me to my second video from this week, which was pretty much lessons learned, stories from my past failed, 2 of them, relationships. I got divorced 9 years ago, roughly, and I had a difficult breakup 3.5 years ago. And that was kind of like the lessons learned from both of them. And there were 5 questions in that video, and I was thinking of recapping, summarizing that here as well, and kind of like give my perspective after the fact. Raw and real, authentic, no post-production, so to say. And there were 5 questions. Number 1 was, I have my cheat sheet here, that's why I looked down, because I can't remember all of them by heart. Will I ever find this chemistry again? So I was using myself as an example. And by chemistry, I meant the sexual connection people have. And we often get blindsided when we have a deep chemistry with somebody. We confuse chemistry with compatibility. It doesn't mean necessarily the same thing. Chaos doesn't mean that you're compatible with somebody. Typically, it's an up and down addictive type of relationship where it's kind of like a boom and bust real estate market. Well, obviously, California has been going like this, but typically, we used to call California, when I was investing there, we used to call it boom and bust. So it goes up and then it comes down, and it's like, well, anything in life goes like that. And I think if you're in an addictive relationship where you are willing to suffer from that downturn or recession so that you get the next rise again, there's something fundamentally wrong. I was, call it not victim, I put myself in that position. I could have left any day, but I thought everything was fine because there was very strong sexual connection and chemistry. But I think it's the opposite. Life has to be easy and peaceful. If you have a lot of drama all the time, you got to move on. You got to walk the fuck away and make sure that you learn your lessons. When people show you their true colors, you got to believe them the first time. Selecting a partner in life, in my opinion, is like hiring somebody for your business. Hiring is always guessing. right? There's no way you can know. Let's say you start dating somebody. It's always guessing until you get to know that person. But when in business and in relationships, when people show you their true colors, then after that, you think about hiring is guessing, but firing and promoting is knowing. The same way when somebody shows you his or her true colors in a relationship, believe them the first time, no excuses, because after that, it's on you. If somebody causes a lot of drama, you're like, okay, maybe that was just a one-off. No, it's never one-off. It's gonna get worse. Wait until you know that person a lot better than what you know now. So let's say in 5 years, it's gonna get a lot worse. And then it's on us. When we start dating, we quote unquote select somebody. That's always guessing. But then after that, it starts to be knowing. And then we can only blame ourselves. Like me, I'm not putting, by the way, any blame on my ex-partners in any way. I always have at least 50% of the responsibility. That's not the point. But the point is that I'm in control. Look, and I'm not complaining, I'm actually super grateful for every experience, because that's how I learn. And I wouldn't be able to talk about this stuff and help others potentially. I'm not saying I'm a relationship expert, but I've seen a lot, and I have an ability to connect the dots and recognize patterns in life. And that's why I can talk about this stuff and use myself, you know, so to say, open the door, be vulnerable, real talk. And like I said, it's all the answers are always in the mirror. I can always blame myself, so to say, and say that, okay, hey, if I put myself in a position like that, it's on me. But that's really hard. And now that I've been single for 3.5 years, I see people, and I've been on a lot of dates and whatnot. So it's been refreshing to see. I've been kind of proud of myself a little bit that now when people show me their true colors, I can just walk away. Sometimes I think if I do it too quickly, because when you go from one extreme to another, because my problem in relationships has always been that I'm a fixer. Okay, you throw a problem at me, what do? I fix it. Like there's nothing that I can't fix. Okay, that's such a naive thought, I know. And this last relationship taught me a very, very valuable lesson about people, that there are things that you can't fix. Learn how to let go, okay? I've said many times that I used to be a yes person, yes man, who thought that I can influence anything. Adversity doesn't apply to me. Why? Because I work so hard and I can see around the corner. I understand the big picture. And that made me very stubborn and also very vulnerable to my own stupidity based on how naive I was. Because like I said, I thought I could fix anything and everything. I wouldn't take a no for an answer. If I had deep connections and feelings, I was like, okay, we can fix this. There's just a misunderstanding. No, it's not a misunderstanding. When you talk to somebody and you see that they don't hear you. They might listen, but they don't hear what you're saying. Their eyes are blocking the whole message. Just, let go. Learn how to let go. And that's something I really had to learn the hard way. Question number 2, am I incapable of being in a relationship? When you date somebody who's very good at putting the blame on you, we start doubting ourselves. And in many toxic relationships, this is the dynamic that seems to be happening. And if you think about the famous concept called 3 layers of blame by Dr. Albert Ellis, on the outside circle, you have a layer, you have circumstances, then you have others, and then self, meaning who do people blame? Typically, we blame the circumstances. Okay, so my vacation got screwed because of the weather, airline being late, and the rental company giving me a wrong car. I blame somebody, I blame the circumstances. And then the next layer in is others. Okay, my spouse or my brother or my parents are responsible for my well-being and for my happiness. If people don't behave the way I would like them to behave, they can be punished. I'm not saying physically, but verbally or whatever, right? I can give them feedback. I can show my disappointment. I can show my emotions because you don't respect my rules. You don't behave the way I want you to behave. And people who are very good at, you can call manipulating others, they typically put the blame on you. And then when that goes on and on and on, meaning that person outsources their own problems, then you start believing that. It happened to me a little bit too. I've always been very independent, and it was funny in that relationship. People close to me were like, "What the heck happened to you? You used to be so firm on certain things, and now you start to doubt your own things." And that's when I really realized that, okay, I just need to move on from here. Is this drama normal? Question number 3. No, no drama is normal. It's never normal. But like I mentioned in the beginning, we are so used to that up and down addicted type of relationship that it's hard to jump away from that. And the reason why we can't do that is because of fear. Fear is the number one motivator for people in life to do or not to do things, in my opinion. In relationships, you see it in a way that we don't seem to have the courage to leave a bad relationship because we are simply afraid to be alone. Do I ever find anybody? Am I good looking enough? What's going to happen when I'm by myself financially, emotionally, and all of that stuff? Where am I going to live? What's going to happen to the kids? Are they going to be fine with the other parent and whatnot? It's fear. And that's why we are willing to tolerate drama, because the other option is so scary. It's scarier than no drama, right? Makes a lot of sense. People change in life when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change. Think about it. So using relationships as an example, let's say I'm in a bad, toxic relationship with lots of drama. People close to me, they're like, not in that relationship, they're like, why the hell do you stay? Why don't you just go? The real reason is that, like I mentioned, change happens when the status quo is unbearable, right? Because up until that point, the change was scarier than the no drama. And this is one thing to keep in mind, that if you ever want to change something in life, you can do this exercise at home. You're like, okay, so what am I afraid of? What's the worst case that can happen? You start listing things. As long as nobody dies, nobody gets sick, does it really matter? Then you're like, really? Okay, so what am I afraid of really? Yeah, I might need to sell the house or the car, so what? But you kind of try to make the status quo, the existing conditions, so scary and so painful that you kind of force yourself to make a change. Number 4, why doesn't she understand me? Well, communication is one of those things. Sometimes no amount of communication is going to solve the problems, because people just simply speak a different language. Not literally, but they don't understand each other. And that's what happened to me. I thought we were on the same page. We were not. And like I said, I was stubborn. I was trying to fix everything because saying no was hard, scary for me, because again, it's the change. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was easier for me to control it, keep everything in my hands, be the driver all the time. Can I just fix this if I try hard enough? Yeah, that was one of my things that if you think about it, relationships are in some ways a polar opposite to business, I would argue. Yes, all relationships require work. That's a given, obviously. Nothing happens without work. If you're with somebody for 20 years or 30 years, it requires a lot of work, a lot of communication, obviously. But it can't be like this project, like this stubborn project that you just keep grinding and grinding and grinding and nothing seems to work, right? So business can be that. When you start something new, like my startup that I started 1.5 years ago, that's a different thing, because you're basically fighting something that is fixable. But if relationship starts off on the wrong foot, it's not fixable, because the chemistry is not there in the beginning. If you have somebody, and there's like 2 types of criteria that I use. There are 3 levels in every relationship. I mean, like the excellent ones. The everyday connection level, meaning who does what. I mean, who takes the kids to school and who's going to do laundry, who's going to clean, who's going to cook, whatnot. So it's like in good relationship, that's roughly 50-50, and it falls in line. Okay, you don't like to cook, I don't like cleaning, so we kind of like split the tasks. Then the second level, second connection is the chemistry, the passion, the sexual connection, very important. And the third is the spiritual connection. You don't get to third level without first and second first. That's the order. Most people have one and a half maybe, but very rarely. Oh, not many people have all three. And the other thing I use as far as if a relationship works is that both people are supposed to support each other no matter what. You have to have shared interests, aligned interests. And number three, which is the hardest, you have to be able to make each other better. It's a two-way street. When you start a business, all of these seem to be just like way out of whack. The only thing is that, okay, I have passion. I want to get better. You keep banging your head against that door, you know, and maybe in year 3, 4, 5, you're able to go through, so to say, and you're able to achieve what you want. But if the relationship should never be like that. You're not supposed to bang your head against the wall for 3 years or even 3 months, I think, because you end up making a lot of compromises anyhow. So if during the first 3 months you already are listing all the issues, it's not going to work. That's why I think it's different. And that's where I went wrong personally, because I was just like so used to grinding and working hard and trying to make things work and just ignoring the bad stuff. That's how that was I wouldn't call it the quick summary, 26-minute summary of my last 2 videos. Check them out if you want. And let me know. Comment down below or in the videos what you thought. Which one of the ones highlighted things is the hardest for you. Now it's Friday. Cheers. Water. Any comments or questions? Not super busy today. I guess understandable. I wanted to record this and get something going after 5. I think I had my last live on the 16th, so it's 21st now. 5 days ago. Been busy trying to think about the strategy going forward and creating shorts and delivering messages that may hopefully make sense. I don't know if they do, but that's what I've been doing. And just living a very, very simple, I wouldn't call it boring life, but very simple life here in Spain. I've been here for 2 weeks exactly now. 2.5 weeks left. And the reason why I came was that I wanted to simplify my life so that I could concentrate only on work. How do I do that? I say no to distractions. And yeah, my kids are fine. They are, talk to them every day, and they probably enjoy their life because I'm not around for a little bit. And I think it's a good thing for all of us. They have to take responsibility when it comes to doing some laundry and cooking and the simple stuff, taking care of the house. And I'm here able to focus on my work and escape the winter for a little bit. And we'll see what I do after Christmas. Right now the plan is to do another month and a half somewhere and gradually go more and more towards this hybrid mode, so to say, where I winters spend time elsewhere, of course, depending on where my kids are. Yeah, but they get older all the time and they are both adults in a year. So then, I don't know, when they move out and live on their own, so to say. So I guess then they don't need me that much anymore or want me around. But of course, if they stay in Europe, I'll be somewhere close. But I don't know, maybe I do Florida after Christmas or maybe California, I don't know, let's see. So what's going on? Any questions to me? Any comments? Would like to hear something. Otherwise, this is just my my monologue, which I don't mind, but I mean, that's not the point. A couple of lives ago, we had lots of interaction and questions, but I do these horizontally, so they are, I guess, only advertised to my own subscribers. I don't do the vertical lives anymore because I'm attracting a lot of those subs who are probably not in my target avatar. And I've already had this huge problem in my hands as far as a problem challenge that many of my subscribers are not active. You can tell based on the metrics, the vanity metrics of my videos, and I'm trying to gradually, little by little, quote unquote retrain the algorithm. And again, another grind, another, I don't know how long it's going to take, some months maybe to get some traction again, but it's the way it works. Gotta get better. Gotta get better. What else? Well, that's pretty much all I had today. Training wise, I was at the gym today and yesterday. Saw a doctor here actually. Yeah, I haven't talked about that. A couple of days ago, I saw a doctor because my right knee has been bothering me a lot over the last 6 months or 7 or 8 months. And I've been training and just like trying to deload a little bit, meaning take it a little easier, because I had same kind of inflammation in my left knee a couple of years ago and went away when I just like took care of it better and whatnot. And I was hoping this would be the same thing, but actually started to get worse. And then my ankle was all swollen and red when I came here, and even a week after that, and my shin was all kind of like, there's inflammation on my shin. I was like, what the heck's going on? It's like, did I get bit by something? Or, you know, for a fraction of a second, I was like, do I have a blood clot from flying? But obviously that was not the case. Well, I don't know. I never got that tested, but it got better and it's not possible. But anyhow, and I went to see a doctor. And he was just he just told me that I have tendonitis in my right knee. So it's basically the inflammation of that tendon that basically is, I guess, here on the side and in the back of my knee and connects down to my ankle. And that's why the whole chain, if you want to call it that way, there's inflammation there. And he said no leg training for 2 to 3 weeks. And I was like, oh my God. Well, legs are my weakest link anyhow, and I try to prioritize them, and now I can't train them. But yeah, of course it's good for the long term. And I've been trying to ice it. I have this, I'm going to show you. For those who are going to watch this after the fact, I have this, what is this called? Kind of like this rubber, this elastic, it's not tape, but this kind of like band, almost like those exercise bands, you know what I mean? And you wrap this around that tendon area, like kind of like your knee in this case, and then there's a lot of compression. It's really tight, and then you start moving, kind of like you pump blood there, and then you release it. It's supposed to enhance the blood flow. It's the same thing that icing does, the same kind of impact. But we'll see. Hopefully in a couple of weeks I can get back at it. But yeah, I guess that's it. That's a little over half an hour. So no comments today, no questions, that's okay. Like I said, let me know those 2 topics I covered today, how to be in shape in your 40s, the second half of your life, what are you going to do about it? There were 3 things. Which one of those 3 resonated? And then the other topic I talked about, there were 5 questions about people or men in their 40s being in bad relationships. Don't waste any time, just move on. Life is too short if that's your case. And how do I know if I'm in a bad relationship? Ask yourself, if I met this person today, knowing what I know, would I go on a second date with him or her? That's the thing. That's the second date test. If you've been with somebody for 20 years with all the baggage, you put all of that shit on the table, so to say, and like, okay, this is what I know. I met this person yesterday, and now today I'm going to decide if she's worth the second date or he. That's the question. And if the answer is no, I would not go, knowing what I know, no, there's no way I would go, then walk the fuck away right there and then. It's just my opinion. Anyhow, everybody have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later.